Hi, my name is Ritesh Bawri. I'm an entrepreneur and also the father of two wonderful children. Interestingly, I'm also someone who's almost died 14 times in my life. From being in a near plane crash to being lost in a jungle, I've seen it all. 7 years ago, I experienced what was hopefully my last near-death experience. I just turned 40. I was diabetic, I was hypertensive, had always suffered from asthma, and I had acidity for at least 20 years. Thanks to the intervention of Professor Ravi Rajan, I was able to reverse all these conditions in 90 days. I was hooked. I had to learn more. Since then, I've read thousands of medical journals and hundreds of books. I've certified myself in physiology from the Harvard Medical School and in nutrition from the Tufts Medical School. I just had to understand what was happening in the human body. I've started Breatheagain, a platform dedicated to helping people live a very long and a very healthy life. We've been able to impact thousands of people, reverse lifestyle conditions. You know, the really interesting thing is that even the World Health Organization calls lifestyle diseases potentially reversible. Are we saying that if you just simply made some lifestyle changes, 7 of the top 10 reasons why we're dying could be reversed, or at least the risk could be reduced? To find out more, I put together the Ritesh Bawri Show, where we talk to experts and regular people, understand from them what's going on with their lives, and how all of us can live a very long and a very healthy life. Welcome to the show, the Ritesh Bawri Show. You know, every once in a while you run into someone who's young, who's innovative, who's ambitious, and who wants to conquer the world. It was just like that with Ria Rustagi. I ran into her on Instagram. She was actually recommended to me by a very famous professor at IIT Kanpur, who said she's doing truly exceptional things. When I looked her up, I found that was true. And so I invited her literally on Instagram. She reached out and she was very responsive. She's talking to us about a device called Neuphony. It records the electrical signals in your brain and tells you kind of what's happening, whether you're in a calm state, in a stress state, but more importantly, what you can actually do with it. And so she's literally going to tell you how you can use her device to dramatically alter your state, your brain state, something you really need to hear from, especially if you're stressed. Hi, Ria. This is truly going to be a fascinating conversation. I'm like really excited. Everything we've spoken about so far, the conversations we've had about the device that you built and the capabilities that it has is just remarkable. So I know I'm going to have a very exciting time chatting with you. I hope the audience also benefits from the conversation we're going to have, because what you've built is truly something that gives you insight into a part of our body that historically has been medical. Right?
Correct.
So in a very rare instance, if you really had some sort of a severe problem, that was when you went and got an EEG done.
Exactly.
And that's really what you've done. You brought this to the consumer. So I'm really excited. I hope we learn from each other. I definitely want to learn from you. But let's start at the beginning. What happened? Like, what led you into this? Do you come from an entrepreneurial background?
Yes.
What's the history? How did you get into this?
So I do come from an entrepreneurial family, but I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I saw my father being an best part of the world and still always being on call, being hyper stressed. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. But my elder sister Pankhure was diagnosed with brain infection
Okay.
in 2016, and she was working in Bombay and Standard Chartered Bank.
All right.
All she had was headache and a neck pain.
Okay.
And that pain was there for 9 months straight. All the doctors would say that it's cervical.
Okay.
Just make your posture right, just sit better, just eat better, etc. But then there came a day where she had unbearable pain. She went to a doctor in Noida, and then he was able to diagnose her with meningitis infection.
Okay.
Now that infection, they hospitalized her. She went into the hospital walking, talking. We should not forget that.
Okay.
Within 3 days, she started having hallucinations. She was out of control. And within the next 2 days, she was in semi-coma, bedridden, paralyzed at the age of 25.
Wow.
And the clinic could not take care of her. Then she was shifted to Apollo Hospital in Delhi. And I don't know what happened, but every day, it was all of a sudden, within 5-7 days, we were fighting for her life.
Okay.
And there was no clue, no sign, no symptom of all of this happening, which basically meant that your brain is a black box. Anything can happen overnight, like with a click. She was there in that stroke ICU for 5 months.
Okay.
Eventually, she started losing all her cognitions. She was not able to operate. Obviously, she was paralyzed. The whole right part of her body was non-functioning.
Okay.
They did a surgery where she was not able to also speak for those 5 months. Unfortunately, in November 2016, she passed away.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for watching. Being connected to each other is easily one of the most powerful emotions a human being can feel. On that note, I have a very small request to make of you. Lots of you watch this channel, but not all of you subscribe to this channel. If you subscribe, you'll get notified of all the new episodes that we're going to be releasing very shortly. We've had some fascinating conversations with some amazing people who have so many powerful lessons to teach. So please do subscribe. If you subscribe to the channel, you will know about all the new episodes we're releasing. So please subscribe. Subscribe now.
What happened was now, it felt very long, but it also felt very short, because at the glimpse of, we couldn't just understand what happened.
How quickly this was moving.
And how can you go to a hospital walking, talking completely? Your brain is working and then it stops working in the hospital. So some medicines were given. What happened wrong? We started understanding. And even if you're in a stroke ICU, how could the doctor not put something on her which monitors her brain?
Right.
So your brain has an issue and the brain should be monitored. That
Correct.
was my common sense. But obviously, when after she passed away, I was non-operating, right? Like I was just barely living, and I
Sure.
was traumatized. But at that time, my co-founder, who's also my husband, he didn't stop. He still kept reading and learning about BCI, brain-computer interface, human-computer interface as technology. So he was based out of Delhi at that time, and I was studying in Germany.
Okay.
When my sister had passed away. So I came back, and then my parents were like, you go back because we still want to fulfill her dreams and visions that she had. She compromised like a lot for my work.
Sure.
So then my husband and co-founder, he wanted to be an entrepreneur and he wanted to create a consumer wearable device. And then when he saw all of this happening, he said, let's create something for the brain. And I just wanted to help him out. And I said that, see, if you want to create something for the brain, you have to create something that would have helped me or my sister at that time.
Right.
And in the building process, we realized that I have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Of course.
I was borderline insomnia, Obviously, I was living alone at the age of 21, away from my family after such a traumatic incident. And then when I got to know about my PTSD, we said that, see, maybe if we create a medical grade device in day one, people might not buy from us because we are two engineers. And the entrepreneurship is a new challenge, right? So let's start one step at a time. Let's start with the very basic step towards brain health, which is mental health.
Right.
And let's build a product which can help people. Like, it gave me awareness that I have PTSD. Let's give people awareness about stress, anxiety, mindfulness, focus, cognitive health.
Sure.
And let's try to get them to prevent any sort of condition that can come. In the journey, we'll also find ways where we can monitor those things, neurological conditions. But let's start in helping people learn about their brain. So that's
wonderful.
how we started.
Oh, wonderful. So like something wonderful came out of a very, very traumatic and unfortunate incident in some
Yes.
sense.
So the company is actually dedicated to her. It's named after her, Punk Tech.
Wonderful.
So it's a way to kind of tell people that, working on your brain is very important. It's the master, right? It's your operating system of how you function, behave, and everything.
Right.
Let's do something on a daily basis to work on it.
Wonderful. So I know you're going to make me a guinea pig with the device,
Yes.
and we're going to try it on me, and we'll also record my brain waves, and hopefully there will be some when you actually record it. But let's just talk a little bit. Let me just give context to the user. So this is what we call an EEG device. It records, brain waves, electrical signals that your brain is sort of producing at all points in time. There are different kinds of brain waves that you're producing. There are different amplitudes at which they're being produced. And obviously, there are different frequencies at which they're being produced, all of which in some sense can create a signature that gives you an understanding of what might be happening in your brain. Is that a
correctly?
fair...
So we call it like a brain scan or a cognitive profile we are able to capture of our users.
Sure. And of course, the use cases for this could be many. You could use it for, in your opinion, what?
So, oh my God, there are so So neurofeedback,
Yeah.
ideally and in old school ways. So you would go to a person, a neuroscientist. They would put a lot of wires over your head
Yeah.
and track. So it can be used by athletes. So for example, Abhinav Bindra used to travel to South Africa to get a neurofeedback session done during his training courses.
Oh, wonderful.
In US, it's being used by a lot of top level performers. So that's the very first basic of it. So because performance, brain training, control, resilience, all these parameters are your brain functions.
Right.
So it's used by athletes for performance. It's used by entrepreneurs. It's used for mental health analysis. So stress, anxiety. So normal people also who are in the IT industry, housewives, homemakers, students in universities, professors, researchers. It can be used to just learn about yourself and also others. So we have a lot of psychologists, sports psychologists, psychotherapists, psychiatrists also who are using our product to personalize their services to their consumers.
So in a nutshell, you're saying everyone should use one.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's talk about this. So, historically, EEGs were things that were used in hospitals.
Correct.
In patients that had an acute chronic condition.
Exactly.
So it could have been epilepsy, it could have been, let's say, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, where maybe you're trying to understand what's happening in the brain.
Correct.
You've produced or created what you would loosely call a consumer device.
Yes.
Right? What was the motivation, or what was that leap, or what is it that you were trying to do?
So in very basic word, so if I tell you, I considered myself a smart person.
Sure.
Somebody who studied very hard, somebody who knew about the world, somebody who knew around science. But when all of this was happening to my sister, I was like, I didn't even knew that your brain had a signal, It was not taught to us in school. And I knew that a lot of mental health issues during COVID and everything were coming up.
Right.
So I believe as an engineer that the best use of science and technology only happens when it comes to the hand of the consumers.
Sure.
Because that's where you are trying to make a change. If I have a technology and EEG has been in research labs for years.
Forever, yeah.
In clinics forever.
Yeah.
But mental health still has a stigma.
Correct.
So it didn't really solve the day-to-day issues that people were facing. I wanted to make it consumer-facing, and I'm very, very adamant towards that because I want to bring a change. And change can only happen when it reaches households.
That's a wonderful way to put it. So in fact, we've seen that trend, right? So let's say even a blood pressure monitor.
Exactly.
You monitor yourself once a year when you went into your GP and he said like, ek baar dekh lo, dekhne mein
Exactly.
kya jata hai.
See?
And then that became like a daily thing. And then you got like devices at home. Then you started doing the heart rate variability, the ECGs at home,
Yes.
right? So you start getting devices that does ECG. And perhaps you're just following that trend, right? That like,
Yes.
okay, why not the brain?
Correct.
At the end, the brain is one of the most vital sort of.
100%. So even with smartwatch, so we learned a lot from these wearable devices, right? So I'm wearing this Aura ring.
Correct.
They all, even with our smartwatches, they track how many steps you walked.
Sure.
Because you were being told to walk for your physical health for a very long period of time.
Sure.
I remember my mom telling me when I was in school and college and Vodafone had come up with this ad, I think, walk and talk.
Yeah.
But nobody used to listen. But now it's gamified.
Sure.
And now you have to complete that 10,000 steps. I've seen my mom working inside the house to complete those steps,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So it's a gamified version to help you take care of your health.
Right.
We are trying to take the same concept, but to make it reach towards brain health. Because if you see 10 years back, gyms were those closed, dark, shady places in the basements where people used to just go and train their body.
Correct.
But in the past 10 years, in a gym, you get to go do Zumba, Pilates, yoga, meditation. It's fun.
Yeah.
Taking care of your health should be fun. It
Correct.
should not be like a burden or a stressful activity, not like a job, So we are trying to make it fun and engaging for the user so that it's, meditation, mindfulness, breathing techniques, so that you want to do it and not you're asked to do it.
Right. No, wonderful. And so what were the engineering challenges? Like, so for someone like you kept saying you're an engineer, like help me understand what kind of an engineer are you?
So I'm an electronics engineer.
Okay. And your husband?
My husband is an embedded engineer.
Okay.
So I helped in creating the base electronics at the very early stage.
Okay.
And he took the electronics and created the software and created the interface. So he got himself certified in neuroscience while we were based out of Germany. So all of this was happening when we were living in Germany until last year.
I see.
So it's a design in Germany, but manufactured in India kind of a product.
Got it.
So we are incorporated here, but A lot of engineering challenges were there. See, because it's a make in India product. So it's made in India. Building a product out of India with regards to the design challenges, with regards to the manufacturing molds, wearables were not made in India 2.5, 3 years back. People outsource their contracts to China.
Sure.
But everything for this product is done in India.
Oh, wonderful.
And it's done by us as the founders. Thank you so much.
No, totally.
So a lot of challenges were there, 100%. Because when I go to the mold manufacturer who makes molds of, let's say, big items, not for small products, wearables, I cannot tell him the things that he needs to take care of. Comfort, cushion. You cannot put screws in this.
Right.
It cannot be hard edges. This is just with regards to mechanics. Then we talk about the electronics. Electronics was something which was easy for us because we both came from that background. We both did electronics B.Tech. So for us, electronics was the easy part, but the software. So now we were building the software in India, and you have software developers, you have biomedical engineers, and then you have AI/ML engineers. But we were bootstrapped.
Right.
So how do you hire these three people who are very niche in just their roles in general? So Bhavya used to get certified, create the base, get people from abroad to help us and consult us, and then created the base stack for the whole product from India. But there were a lot of engineering, manufacturing challenges that we had to fight through, specifically because we were bootstrapped.
Sure.
So there was not like a lot of money that we could play with the R&D end of it. So yes, it was quite a bit challenging.
No, fascinating. And so one of the challenges I'm presuming is how did you shift from wet electrodes to dry?
Yes.
That would clearly be one of your big problems.
That was a very strong requirement that we had when we were building this product, because we did like a lot of market surveys. Every 6 months, we used to create like a basic next version of the prototype. So like we started in 2019, we got the idea. We bought an open source hardware, electronics, and we just put it in to be honest, like the strap of a tennis racket. We took it, put holes, put gold electrodes, and took the hardware to people out in Europe and say, can you put this over your head? We want to do this. Fascinatingly, a lot of people said yes. They were hesitant, but then I was trying to convince them. So it took me hours, but we were able to get through. This was 2019 April. Then in 6 months, what we did was we put the same thing on a 3D printed version. People liked it. Then after that, we put our own electronics and put it into a casing. People loved it. And that's when we started selling the product. But what we were very adamant on was that, see, we need something dry, because one of our competitors has wet electrodes.
Correct.
Who is in the research grade market. So yes, wet electrodes give you a much better signal quality, and they will always do. But that's the same case with ECG, right? If you go to a clinic to get a ECG done, they still use those space over your different parts of the body to get the signal. We wanted something dry. It took us 7 months to get a vendor. So the sensors are not made by us. It's procured, but it's procured by one of the biggest research-backed company who has created these sensors. And they are not based out of India, unfortunately. But we are working on creating this thing by ourselves as well.
I see.
And that too, active electrodes. So that the signal is as accurate as it can get.
So when you say there's a difference in the quality, like what?
98 to 100%.
Okay, so it's not significant.
So not significant. 100% not significant.
Okay.
It's just that the patterns and the trends are same, but little less accurate. So we still don't call it, it can be used maybe for diagnosis, the same sensors, but we are not there yet because we need to have active circuitry, noise elimination algorithms, all of this filtering to be able to get the data which I want to use for diagnostics, because then you are taking care of somebody's life.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be even a 1% less accurate.
But is that a software problem or is that a hardware problem or both?
Both.
Okay.
So first is hardware, because if the signal that's coming out of the hardware, that's not good, then the software cannot really do much.
Correct.
So we try to get everything. So at every level, you have to get the best accuracy possible. So from the sensors to the electronics, and then when you transfer this much data through Bluetooth, there does come some challenge.
Noise, yeah, sure.
So if I get 16 sensors, for example, I cannot operate on Bluetooth. Then it has to be wired.
Okay.
Because Bluetooth does not have that much bandwidth. So there are like both hardware and then software. So we have these different filters that can be put, how the signal is getting processed. So there is a software patent that we have in US, which is on how we process the signal to make it as accurate as possible with the same sensors. One of our competitor also has these sensors, but our signal quality is much accurate against the competitor who's using the same sensors.
Just simply because of the software that you
Exactly.
No, I understand what you're saying. So just funnily, we do a heart rate monitor ourselves.
Yes.
And then we use a company in Finland that
Mhm.
does the algorithm to process
Correct.
and convert it into an ECG, convert it into HRV, and so on and so
Okay.
forth. And what they're really good at is just exactly what you said, the algorithm that takes the data from the device,
Mhm.
but then can smooth out the noises, remove the noise,
Yes, that's
eliminate,
exactly.
etc., etc. So is the data being recorded on the device, or it goes directly via Bluetooth?
So it gets recorded and in real time is transmitted to the
okay.
mobile phone or the desktop application.
And how long can you record for? Like,
as long as 8 hours, which is the battery of the headband.
I see. Okay. So if you, in theory, if you wanted to do 8 hours, we'll talk about how
Yes.
you'll actually use it. But in theory, if you wanted to do 8 hour
8
run, you
hours.
can. So in fact, if you wanted to use it to sleep,
Yes.
you could in theory.
Sleep or when you're working. So you want to
Got
see
it.
how your whole day goes with regards to your work
Got it.
efficiency. So that can also be done.
Got it. Before we actually jump into the device itself and then the different use cases and how you'd use it, I just wanted to create a differentiation between the different kinds of implants that you can do in the brain. So
Correct.
one is this.
Yes.
Then, of course, as I understand it, you can do a brain implant. You can actually put
Yes.
something into the brain.
Yes, that's what Elon Musk is working
Correct,
on.
exactly. The Neuralink,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So can you walk me through what are the different kinds? Like
So there
historically?
is intrusive,
Yeah.
what Elon Musk is doing, and then there is extrusive. There's one more thing. So these are just monitoring. So we have two types of monitoring devices, but then there is also one type of device that is TDCS,
Right.
where there is current stimulation.
Correct.
So those are ideally used for neurological conditions where the diagnosis has happened.
Right.
And then there is a small current that has been sent to you to make sure that you reach that state.
Correct.
So it's like putting you externally into that mode of theta state.
Right.
To be more relaxed and calm. So these are the three types of devices with regards to brain variables that you can see.
Right. Okay. And so obviously what you're focusing on is just the reading.
Yes.
At some point in time, we'll talk about how you give the feedback.
Yes.
But the device is not directly giving you feedback. Is that correct?
It kind of does also. So the device does not give you feedback,
Okay.
but the data from the device is used to give you real-time volume modulation.
Okay.
So which basically means like right now you're listening to me.
Yeah.
If by any chance and your attention goes to something like an email or a work related task or a family related task, my volume would go low.
Okay.
So it's trying to pull your attention back to the moment, which is this conversation.
Right.
And when that happens, the volume automatically increases.
How interesting.
This happens with the device and the mobile application. So I ask you to listen to meditations, music, breathing techniques, even when you're reading a book. Whenever your attention goes from the moment, there is some feedback that we give you. Volume modulation, birds chirping, etc. And then you can bring your attention back to the moment.
So you're almost doing like a device-driven, be in the present moment kind of.
Exactly. That's what I say really.
How
See,
wonderful.
we know that being in the present is a gift,
Yeah.
and it's something which is very challenging, to be honest, for a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Yeah.
But we are helping you reach that state. After some time, what happens is 8 weeks, 10 weeks, you don't need the feedback.
Right.
You are there in that moment. You learn to acknowledge.
Yeah.
And then there is a new challenge that can come up where the device can help you.
Sure. No, wonderful. So I started my journey on trying to be present. I'd say roughly about 10 years ago. I accidentally discovered this meditation technique called Zazen.
Mm-hmm.
And that led me to this whole journey of being present. And if I have one metric that I track for myself, it's how many moments in every day I've spent in being present. So I'd like to spend as many moments as I can being present, because in any case, that's the only moment I have in control. I wish your device was there 10 years ago. Maybe my journey would have been easier.
That's the whole point, because people say that. So it's psychologically, it's become like a
Thing to say,
yeah, right?
Yeah,
it's something that you know, but you don't actively work towards.
Correct, exactly.
Like I said, gave the example of walking or controlling your nutrition.
Yeah.
But this will really help you, because I see, and I'm telling you very honestly, like this is something that I am still teaching my team.
Yeah.
It's not that my team is working on this, so they're that self-aware. I have a habit that I ask my team members not to intervene with each other straight away. They should send each other messages if they need something from each other, and not just go, because you're disrupting the person's flow.
Right.
And you need to respect that, because then it's too much task. It's like your brain is running between two rooms back and forth. So you'll get tired after 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Whereas if you're in that one room for a longer period of time, you're more calm, you're relaxed, and you can last longer as an efficiency part of it. So that's something which is very much needed.
No, wonderful. So we'll obviously talk about use cases, but before we do that, let's understand a little bit about what exactly are we trying to do, just for the benefit of the audience. What is an EEG in consumer terms? What are you trying to read? What are the kinds of things you're trying to read? What matters?
Correct.
What doesn't matter? Could you just walk us through that a little bit? So what are you
Yes.
trying to read?
So see, EEG, electroencephalograph,
Yeah.
is your brain activity.
Okay.
Now that brain activity, it's a signal like your ECG.
Sure.
But ECG has a pattern. So you'll see that pattern
Correct.
in
Okay.
ECG.
Yeah.
EEG does not have that pattern.
I
EEG
see.
is very random. It's like this. It's very, very random.
Okay.
Now, how do we read it if it's random? It's
Okay.
unpredictable. Then researchers, a German researcher found the EEG, and then it got divided into different brain waves.
Right.
The more and more research is happening, now the further band powers are also getting diverted.
Okay.
So now earlier we have alpha,
Yeah.
which is for calmness, relaxation, and also laziness.
Sure.
Beta brain waves, which is productive, focus, efficiency, flow state.
Sure.
So these are the two brain waves where right now most of the people are in. But then there are these moments where you're in theta, which
Okay.
is calm, creative, juices are flowing, you're very mindful, you're very compassionate. That's the theta moment. Then there is delta, which only comes in deep sleep, which
Okay.
should come in deep sleep.
Okay.
If you have delta brainwaves when you're awake and conscious,
Something's wrong.
something's wrong.
Sure.
And then we have gamma brainwaves. Gamma was recently discovered. It's only seen in monks. I have in 1.5 years only seen one person who has gamma brainwaves and was able to maintain it.
Sure.
But that person has been meditating since she was 5 and now she's 50. So 45 years of
Wow.
constant meditation is what helped her get gamma, I'm assuming. So these are the 5 brainwaves. But now the research has resulted that now beta is also divided into different band powers.
Okay.
And actually 5 bands. So the more and more research is happening, we are learning a lot about our brain.
Okay.
Now, earlier, as you also said, we could only tell with EEG that this person has a neurological disorder.
Right.
Because the patterns were very different. So these could be the things which could be seen with the naked eye.
Right.
But now what has happened with the research, that it's also used for your cognitive health, for your lifestyle.
Okay.
There are more than, I think, 10,000 papers which would tell you what to read from an EEG.
Okay.
So motivation levels, working memory, attention span, resilience to stress, focus, relaxation, mental fatigue, cognitive readiness, how ready you are to take challenges today. That's cognitive readiness.
So if I can interrupt you, basically what you're saying is there are signature patterns for all these different conditions.
Yes.
That if you taught me, for example, I could put this on and look at my brain waves and say,
won't be visible with the naked eye.
Okay.
So there are mathematical formulations that need to be created.
Okay.
So these are now not patterns because the brain waves, as I said, are random.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So now you have to find that frequency, that power, that intensity, and then see if the person has working memory. What is the intensity of working memory or focus?
Right.
So now there are research papers which tell you how to do the math. So for example, there are multiple papers which say frontal alpha asymmetry gives you motivation.
Okay.
But some papers say frontal beta asymmetry gives you paper.
Okay.
So then we as a company, tech company, we create the math to calculate this. I'll calculate both of your scores when I'm trying to motivate you. I'll do this for 30 to 40 people and then see which formula is more accurate to help me determine that. And then we give you that motivation levels, percentage. Today you are 80% motivated.
Right.
Similarly, we do for all the other metrics. So now you don't have to read the EEG because reading an EEG is a challenging task.
For me, sure.
Very few people read EEGs. And so neuropsychiatrists and psychiatrists are taught how to read an EEG in their MBBS. But since we don't use it that much, now they are not familiar with it.
Sure.
So our goal is to eliminate that effort, use AI ML to do all the tasks for you and give you just percentage. So we give you cognitive profile. So if I do your test right now, I can see maybe you're 70% focused, 50% relaxed, mental fatigue would be 30%, your readiness would be 90% because you're into the conversation, your mood would be positive.
Sure.
So this is a cognitive profile. And now this can be read by any person who does not even understand EEG.
Got it. So of course, when you put it on, you're only going to read gamma waves, right? Nothing else in my brain. That's wonderful. No, this is really fascinating. There was actually a study, I know you talked about it as well. There was this study I also read about. They took these monks from India, actually, to Germany.
Yes.
And then they studied them and they found that they were the only ones that had like these gamma waves.
Exactly.
And then the link between meditation and having gamma waves. We'll definitely talk about it some more.
Yes.
It's really, really fascinating. So let's shift a little bit. We talked about the technology. We talked about what we're trying to do. Just for the benefit of the users, what you're measuring is the electric signal,
Activity, yes.
electric activity, where you're looking at a certain shift in the electric
Yes.
activity. From the little research I did, I understood it's 50 millivolts.
Yes.
If there's a minimum of 50 millivolts, then that's something you can read.
Yes.
And then you're reading the frequency, you're reading the amplitude,
both.
and then of course you're reading from where. It's
Exactly.
part of the brain.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's some
all of these three combinations together would give you a little bit information. So like the power would come with
Correct.
amplitude and frequency.
Yeah.
And that's then you take into the brain parts.
Yeah.
So for example, which part of the brain has what? So if you have beta here,
Yeah.
then you're processing information. So right now we would most probably have very high beta brain waves in the prefrontal cortex.
Sure.
But at the back of the head, this is called as the DMN,
Sure.
a parietal lobe. So default mode network.
Yeah.
This would be less activated for us right now because we are engaged in each other's conversation.
Got it.
But if you ask me to think something,
Then
my
suddenly
DMN would go high.
It'll shift.
Now, when it say high, the beta would be high because beta is like high frequency.
Got
So
it.
then we see a shift in the beta brainwaves from the front of the head to the back of the head.
Sure, sure. And I'm sorry, I'm just greedy to understand better.
Yes,
but
please.
A couple of more comments about the device itself. So
Yes.
we are talking about multiple channels.
Yes.
I believe you need like at least 8 channels because that gives you the different brain parts.
Yes, you need so there are competitor products who have 2 channels, 3 channels, 4 channels,
Okay.
all in one part of the brain.
Okay.
But see, they have only one part of the brain. So
Okay.
it's like you're training your body, but you're just training your hands.
Part of, yeah, sure.
What about your legs?
Sure.
What about your torso?
Sure.
So we want more parts of the brain as
Got it.
possible.
Got it. And then there is this pattern I read that's called like 10-20 pattern, right?
Yes.
So what exactly is this?
So 10-20 is a system on which the sensor location should happen.
Okay.
So for example, from center, you want the signals in a 1:2 ratio.
Got it.
So for example, if this is my sensor here, then every 2 centimeters, there has to be a sensor located.
Got it.
So that is the ideal way to place as many sensors. So that's a 32 channel.
Right.
So how we started was we got a 32 channel system, put the sensors, found out which parameters would meditators or my market want,
right.
started eliminating the sensor locations and
smart.
chose the ones which were showing the most activity for meditators.
Very smart.
So that's how we started on creating an 8 channel because a 32 channel would cost very roughly 5 lakh plus.
Got it.
In INRs. In euros, USD, it would be $10,000 US.
Yeah.
And then you would not understand it because it's EEG.
Got it.
So we tried to make it cost effective and portable and understandable for the users.
Got it. No, wonderful. So this device, as I understand, is a 8 channel.
Yes, it's an 8 channel
one.
one.
Of course, we'll use it at some point. Let's shift a little bit. Let's start talking about use cases.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you, kinds of use cases that I would love to, understand. So I meditate. I meditate every single day. I'd love to understand how my meditation was.
Yes.
I'd love to start connecting that to, let's say, my sleep.
Yes.
Connecting that to my mood, connecting that to my life circumstances. I'm having a difficult period. I'm having a wonderful period. I'm, holidaying somewhere. What's happening to my brain?
Correct.
I'm going through a crisis at work. What's happening to my brain? That would be fantastic. And then, of course, how it connects back to my meditation.
Right.
That would be wonderful.
Yes.
From almost not doing any form of exercise, I now exercise every single day, oftentimes 2 or even 3 times a day.
Okay.
So I can run, walk, weight train, and then do something else.
Right.
So that's how often I'm exercising. So for me, any use case that gives me a better understanding of how I was, in that exercise zone, that would be super helpful.
Yes.
I like to do what I call deep work, where I'll block my time or just not, and usually for me, that's in the morning.
Yes.
After I've done my meditation, say 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, the world is silent. I don't have any distractions. That's when I'll do my deepest, reading, my deepest learning, my deepest thinking, my deepest writing.
Right.
So I'd love to understand how, this device can help me with that. Like I'm just giving you 3 or 4 different kinds of use cases. Obviously, I'd love to think about, me as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So like I bring it to work, I wear it and, my employees may laugh and say, sir's gone completely nuts. I don't know what the hell he's doing. But yeah, wonderful, like compare day to day and see what happened and how productive I was at the end and what happened to my brain because of that. And, I had a better day and a worse day. So I could think of endless kinds of use cases. So if it's okay with you, let's pick at least the ones I talked about because I'm just hungry to learn.
So, okay.
But let's also talk about whatever else you think makes sense.
So what you said actually covers all the different parameters and aspects the product can help you.
Okay, wonderful.
So because see, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be an athlete, you can be a student.
Yeah.
Everybody has a lot of cognitive load in their brain, which is like 10 different things that they need to take care of on a daily basis, like in every minute.
Yeah.
And we need to find the best way to be the best version of ourselves.
Sure, absolutely.
So for example, you said that you meditate.
Yeah.
So now if you are an amateur meditator, and then you're a professional meditator. Professional as in like when you've been doing meditation for, let's say, more than 2 years, you're an experienced meditator. So both these people can have different use cases. We all know meditation is one of the best ways to train your brain.
Correct.
But there's a lot of confusion with regards to what is meditation.
Exactly? Yeah, sure.
People think meditation is spirituality, meditation is mindfulness. What is meditation?
Correct.
Meditation helps you, anything that helps you be in the current moment is meditation.
Sure.
That is what it is. Now, it can be your thoughts. That's one type. It can be external, which is your body, breath, the person sitting in front. Second type of meditation. The third type of meditation is completely, let's say, compassion driven, where you're trying to build that gamma, where you're trying to process emotions. And the fourth is where you're trying to avoid everything, let go. So there are these kind of meditations. Now, if you're an amateur person, meditator, then you want to learn how to meditate.
Sure.
Then you want to go to guided meditations. You want to see. So when I went to the gym the very first day, the thing that sticked to me was, I lost 100 calories.
Right.
I'm happy. That motivates me to go another day.
Sure.
The same thing is with meditation. You sit for 15 minutes, but you don't know what happened.
Correct.
Knowing what happened would help, because then you'll stick.
Correct.
So you'll get a score at the end of the meditation that you were 50% calm.
I'm already sold. You don't need to sell me anymore. This is incredible. Like, of course, if you can get feedback about the meditation. So that was one of the big challenges. I started meditating 9 years ago. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? What is this nonsense? What am I trying over here? I don't even know what I'm doing
experience.
Here. So I totally get it. Yeah, sure. Okay. So you're saying this can give you a quantitative
metric measurement of what happened in those 5 minutes.
Okay.
Now those 5 minutes, you can try different techniques.
Right.
Meditation, music, breathing technique, reading a book, jogging, anything, any activity, and how that activity impacts your brain and cognitive health. That's for the amateur meditators.
Correct.
Once people start getting a control over their thought processes, like if I am in this moment, I have to be completely professional, right? If I'm speaking of something, I should not have I should not think of something in the past, right? I should be in the present.
Correct.
So people need to gain conscious control over their thought processes.
Yeah.
Once they gain that, they become experienced meditators. Now, experienced meditators are like, now I want to experience that magic of letting go. Being very compassionate, not caring. You see those people in your life where no matter, they're going through the biggest challenges, but they're the most compassionate. They listen to one of your small issues. They're compassionate. That's gamma brainwaves. So now these meditators are like, am I reaching theta? Am I staying in theta? How can I reach gamma? They just want to get better at it. They want to reach that level where nothing in the world matters. They're just there and they're always happy. They're balanced. That is what an experienced meditator can get from this. So you can see theta brainwaves. You can see gamma brainwaves. I've seen meditators around the world where I've seen that they've done sessions where they started by very high beta activity in the left part or in the back of the head, which is like either logical or self-reflective, but they meditate and then they see high gamma brain waves. Now they go 15 minutes later, they're the most happiest person in the world. So this is what the professional experienced meditators can use the device for.
So how exactly is the feedback going? So let's say I was using it. Let's say, imagine for a minute I became a experienced meditator and I put it on and then I started meditating.
Yes.
How am I learning?
So in the desktop application, you see all of this real time.
Okay.
So for example, with this, I'll tell you these two particular ladies, one from Germany and one from Italy. They were doing Kundalini yoga practice in Italy. We were their tech partners. They invited us to do these sessions with them.
Okay.
We put the devices on. They tried different meditations. They did Ikumkar chanting.
Okay.
They did breathing techniques. They did Gayatri mantra. They did Kapal Bharti. All these different techniques. And each technique will have a different impact on your brain.
Got it.
Then now each of them were able to find that one meditation that helps them reach gamma. That works the best. And now they, rather than doing a 15-minute of that meditation, jumbled with all the other meditations, they try to dedicate 1 hour of that daily. So example, this is the exercise which helps you burn the most calories.
Got it. Yeah.
So you want to do a lot more of
course,
it.
Very sensible.
So that's what these people were now able to do and experience. So whenever now they got the quick hack.
Got it.
If I am not happy and I want the best possible results, the best possible shift this is the meditation I should do. And it's different for different people.
Got it. Wonderful. No, really amazing. And I think that's then becomes very powerful biofeedback in some sense.
Exactly.
I want to disclaim this. I'm huge on devices, on measurements, on tracking, on biofeedback, and so on and so forth. But just for the sake of argument, like some
Yes.
people would argue that meditation
Mhm.
is freeing yourself from the world,
Right.
freeing yourself from, in some sense, everything. You're trying to free yourself from your
Correct.
body. Is it not contradictory to use a device to then try to learn how to meditate?
So yes, it does. But that's an ideal world, right?
Yeah.
In an ideal world, you should not monitor any metric then, as a
Sure.
matter of fact, not just meditation. So I remember like when I was a kid, my mom was like, don't count what you eat. And now all we do is we count the macronutrients like down to the details. Ideally, for walk, my mom has been saying me to walk since, I was a kid, just walk. But now we have a smartwatch which tells us how many steps, and then we get anxious when it's 9,990 steps, right? We want to do the other 10 as well. In an ideal world, yes, we should not be using technology for meditation or any other life parameter.
Right.
Everything should be inbuilt and a conscious step should be taken towards the well-being of each parameter in your life.
Right.
But again, that's ideal, right? Now we already have been using meditation applications,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So we have meditation applications for all the big gurus also now, be it Art of Living, be it Sadhguru, or be it Headspace or Calm.
Yeah.
So you need technology to meditate. I'm just saying that while you're using any technology to meditate or even non-technology, you should know that it's working on you.
Got it.
In the past few years, the number of people, the young generation, who's getting into meditation is not growing as fast.
Right.
Particularly in India. Like I lived in India for 21 years, never meditated. I went abroad, something bad happened. I explored meditation and I liked how people there were perceiving meditation. I liked their version of it, their explanations. I was doing chanting only, but I now understood from a scientific perspective.
Got it.
So you need the science, you need the technology and the variables to make sure that what you're doing, you have a stickiness towards it. So this is a very good tool for people who are not taking care of their mental health or mental well-being or doing anything to take care of their brain health, happiness, inner peace, to start taking care of it. It builds self-awareness.
Yeah.
And more than that, it builds self-acceptance because
Sure.
it's data. It cannot lie. You
Correct.
have to accept it. And that is what becomes the real game changer for people. Because if you are a therapist or you're a practitioner, meditation practitioner, and you tell me that you're anxious, I'm like, no. And it happened with my dad, by the way. So I told my dad, you're a very stressful, very anxious individual. And he was like, no, I'm not. Come to my place. I'm a businessman. It's so stressful, etc. I put the device on. I was like, see, this cannot lie. So now he's like, I am stressed. I'm angry. I cannot talk. This acceptance has started coming into conversations. And now you cannot change that. Once you've crossed that line,
Rubicon, yeah.
you always become very conscious, very compassionate towards others because you can see the ripple effect then.
Correct. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, let's shift a little bit. Let's talk about the second use case. So now I'm an entrepreneur. I want to be a better entrepreneur. I want to be more successful. I want to do more. I want to be more productive. Obviously, I want to be in the present moment, but I also want to get a lot done, right?
Right.
How am I using this device for that?
So see, I completely understand that entrepreneurship is so challenging. It's so stressful. You will face 10 different emotions in a day. Your day could start with the best news in the world and can end up with the worst experience that you've had as an entrepreneur. So there are too many things that happen. And you always have to be very vigilant, which means that I am doing my own task, but I am a team leader. I have to take care of my employees. I have to be responsible towards that. So you have to be very mindful. You have to be in your flow state most of the time.
Sure.
So which basically means flow state can be actually monitored where you have beta brainwaves, which is focus, and theta, which is mindfulness, both at the same time in your brain. That is how theta flow state can be perceived. So now this device can be used by entrepreneurs in multiple ways. Actually, a lot of my clients are top level executives.
Okay.
So they are the directors of some company, they are startup founders, because this is their way of taking 15 minutes of peace from the chaos. and just dedicating some time to make sure that it does not crash. Like right now we were talking, right, that in the past 2 years, multiple high-level executives have had heart attacks during that boardroom meetings, during their important executive conferences, and so on around the world. So top-level executives or top performers really need this device to take care. So we tell them, that see, today your stress level is 90. It's okay. Today you had a bad day. Tomorrow again it's 90 and again 90.
Sure.
That's chronic stress.
Sure.
Now if you don't stop, next week it's going to be 100 and then you are not able to operate in your flow state. And that's where the whole thing comes down. We cannot afford even one day of non-performance, right? At a very early stage. We are struggling.
Any stage, actually.
Any stage, see. You cannot afford one day, because if I'm not performing, I'm not there for my team. And then there are multiple people not performing. So this device, A, helps you be in the moment yourself, helps you be compassionate, make sure that you don't reach a stage of burnout, which is very commonly increasing. And not just that, you can also use it for your employees, because we do a lot of corporate workshops. We are working with a very big telecom company now in India to set up these brain gyms in their offices. So now you know that the offices have mindful corners, mental health corners, meditation corners. Google has, Apple has, LinkedIn, SAP, all these big companies have these mindful corners where people can go and unplug. So this device can be used in corporates over there also, because you need to take care of your employees' mental well-being. We saw Meesho giving 14 days off to their employees. We saw Swiggy. We recently saw, I think, Zerodha and Zomato doing something for their delivery executives. Mental health of the employees will eventually result into your ROI, company performance, productivity, everything. So there are not just one, but I think 100 ways of why and where it could be put in a corporate or an entrepreneurial setting.
So just to be clear, like say we were to bring this into our company, I got the device. And let's say I was just measuring myself in the 10 hours or actually 16 hours that I'm working. But whatever the time that I'm working, let's say I'm measuring. How am I learning how to be better?
So A, you don't have to just wear it during your working in an entrepreneurial setting. You have to wear it. A, that could be the option. B could be when you think that you need coffee. But see, coffee is basically a quicker way to push you into beta state.
Correct.
Switch that into a 15-minute focus meditation. After every few hours, 15 minutes of natural push. And then your body starts creating that learning and behavior.
Sure.
So like a reset.
Got it.
So you have to wear it every time you meditate or while you're performing, and you can see and analyze the results at the end of the conversation.
Okay,
so
very clear.
Even so, for example, we've done these tests at my office where which kind of work setting? Should it be an open setting? Should it be a closed setting? A person who is into sales, he would most probably have high focus levels, but maybe low stress levels. Why focus levels? Because they're always very conversational, very productive. But a person who is maybe into tech would have high stress levels because sometimes they're all working is by themselves. It's a very individual task which then gets pipelined. Less human conversations in that industry. So you can determine not only all these parameters but also leadership styles. I have actually, as a testing phase, also put this on my employees, created their personas and profiles, and what is it and how should I deal with each individual so that they give me their best.
Oh, wonderful.
So I can motivate you by talking to you positively, but I think I can motivate him by talking to him very angrily, like not angry but per se, but in a more pressured manner, that you have to do this. With you, the company can reach here. But with you, I have to be like, I really need this. Can you please get this done to me? I've seen and done these experiments and it's fascinating how you can alter human behavior by these small conversations and with this data.
Wonderful. Let's move again very quickly to athletics. So I run, I gym. I try to think of myself as now athletic from almost being completely zero. But how would I use this in an athletic environment?
So for athletes, in an ideal setting and in an original of how neurofeedback was used, athletes were the ones who used neurofeedback.
Okay.
So, for example, rifle shooting, right? Rifle shooting requires which part of your brain? So, it requires your prefrontal cortex. Every game would require your prefrontal cortex to be activated, which is your focus. But it also would require rifle shooting would require your temporal lobe to be shut down. Shut down means like low operating.
Right.
So that it's not distractive. So now for rifle shooting, you need beta brainwaves in front, theta brainwaves here. So now as an athlete, I can see this if this is happening with you and see how I can make you reach that state. So for example, what is your pre-game routine?
Right.
I can try to crack that pre-game routine by creating and giving you activities which gets these two brain activities in your brain.
Amazing.
And not just that, so we did multiple experiments with national level athletes. There are only two type of people which have a straight 90% focus plus. Straight. Long-term meditators and national level athletes. So what we did was we asked them to do a baseline, which is 3 minutes, not doing anything. Then we did sports visualization. Imagine that right now you're in the field, you're a cricketer, you're hitting that sixer, all these juices are flowing and you're that. Imagine that, sports visualization. Then we do stress induction. Then we ask you, imagine that there is a trash talk happening with your competitor or the cricketer who was before you failed miserably. He was one of the best players. So stress, induced stress.
Sure.
And then the fourth is relaxation. Now, because in that moment, nobody will be able to give you a pep talk, neither your psychotherapist nor your meditator, nobody. You have to learn how to do that yourself. We've seen trends where your baseline focus stress levels was 50. Stress induction resulted into 100% stress level. And after that, your stress levels went 75. So you were not able to completely bounce back.
Right.
Now, I, as a coach, would help you reach the bounce back. We've seen some athletes who go from 50 to 100. Now they are more relaxed. They are 25.
Because that stress actually induced a body response. Yeah,
exactly. And now these people have such a common habit of pep talking to themselves that they were able to relax themselves down further. And we try to create this routine for the other athletes as well.
Amazing.
So you don't have to wait for something bad to happen to learn to how to train your brain.
Yeah.
We do it as a preventive technique.
Correct. There's actually this term called hormesis, which is stressing your body just that little bit so that you get stronger, not weaker.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's exactly what we try to do with athletes. And we train them. We train their mindset. But you see, right? We've heard so many of these stories. The show must go on.
Correct.
This happened. You heard a tragic story, but still the person performed in its peak. The best century came when the person was the most stressed because of a person. All these
like my father died and I still played cricket.
Exactly. And I got a century, which I was never able to get before.
Absolutely.
It's because you shut it off.
Yeah.
And you were able to get that resilience. The lower you go, the bigger bounce back you have.
Sure. Let me ask you this question. I was doing a lot of research on this topipic. It was just so fascinating.
Yes.
And one of the really interesting things I learned was this difference between concentration and immersion.
Yes.
So immersion being that I'm in the moment. Concentrated meaning I'm very focused.
Yes.
Can you help me understand this? I read, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So we also have these two matrix. So we have focus and we have alertness.
Right.
So focus is beta brainwaves in this moment, in this conversation. So it's how engaged I am towards this conversation. That's one.
Right. Okay.
But the alert part is, for example, where I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
I'm listening to you, but I'm also kind of processing my activity inside of my head.
Sure.
So in a work setting, how this would look like that as an entrepreneur, as a leader, you have to be very alert.
Yeah.
You can do with 70% focus, but you have to work with 100% alertness because you have to monitor that is happening everything around.
Correct.
Right? So in that particular setting, alertness is divided attention.
Sure.
Where I am doing what I am doing, but I'm also alert towards the things around me.
Right.
So that is, I think, focus and alertness. Similarly to what you said, concentration and immersion. That's how the difference is, but also a little bit of sense of similarity.
Got it. So what are you saying? I should be both? I should be one?
Ideally, you should be both.
Okay.
But there are some moments and some rules which call for something.
Right. Okay.
For example, I want my employees to be more focused than alert. But if I have a person who's an office manager, a team manager, a leader, his job is to take care of others. He has to be more alert than focused.
Got it.
Because we should be able to pinpoint what small mistake is happening around and try to prevent such mistakes.
Got it.
So people who are very calm, composed, they are very alert. They are also very focused. So you'll see all different kinds of individuals. Ideal setting mein, focus should be high. Relaxation should be high. Alertness, which is vigilance or mindfulness, should be high. And fatigue should be low. This is what we monitor, and this is what we tell the trends should be for your brain activity.
Wonderful. Let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about this concept of neuroplasticity. Right? Again, something that, of course, I've been reading about for a very long time. There are well-discovered, research papers that talk about how the brain's completely neuroplastic.
Yes.
You become what you tell yourself, and you can
100%.
literally change everything that the brain believes. In fact, if you just keep pushing that boundary,
Yes.
one of the boundaries they're pushing is that what you see around you is not real; it's a simulation.
Mhm.
Your consciousness is not your consciousness. That
Yes.
also is a simulation.
True.
And then you go push that boundary to say that even your being is not your being because it's all one.
Yes.
When you get into quantum physics, it can get very esoteric.
True.
But just walk me through this a little bit. Help me understand what are we talking about.
So I have a different an example for this. So what I say is your brain is like a plastic bag.
Okay.
The more you put into it, the bigger it gets.
All right.
It's expandable. So
Okay.
is your stomach. So example, see, you talked about how you were eating n
Six-
number of dosas,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
In one meal, and now you're eating one apple and your stomach would get full.
Correct.
Because your stomach is also elastic.
Yeah, sure.
So is your brain.
Okay.
The more information you give your brain, the more information your brain would be able to cater to.
All right. Okay.
As I said, it's like a bag. But now the bag will take multiple informations. So as you grow, right, information will grow, your cognitive load will increase, different tasks will come into your brain. But now you need to improve this. You need to increase the size of the brain.
Okay.
Otherwise, it will get too heavy.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is what neuroplasticity is.
Okay.
That the ability to grow your brain using holistic techniques so that it does not feel so overwhelming.
Okay.
Because now, if you've got a stronger and a bigger bag, and the same load now feels lighter,
Sure.
right? So this is what neuroplasticity is. How you can achieve this? Meditation. So meditation, actually, every time you meditate and every time you try to be in that state efficiently, there are more neural networks that get created.
Okay.
And they also get stronger.
Okay.
Which basically more neural connections. So basically the gray matter in your brain increases. This is a Harvard-based research.
Okay.
So now when your gray matter increases, there is more memory cells. There are more neurons which can store information.
Okay.
The same load becomes lighter. So you want to use techniques to be able to train your brain to have a bigger capacity. And that is what neuroplasticity is in very easy words.
So in a manner of speaking, what you're saying is shifting my hard drive from a 16 GB to a 160
Yes,
GB.
exactly.
That's kind of what you're trying to say.
100%.
Okay. And how would you use the device then to achieve this kind of neuroplasticity?
So what happens is you use the device once, we monitor your metrics.
Got it.
Over a period of 6 to 8 weeks, we use different algorithms that we've created to see a shift in your baseline.
Okay.
So while every day I'm telling you did 80%, 70%, 60%, what I really want to move your average. So today, your base focus, for example, is 60% the whole week. Ideally, after 8 weeks, your base focus, which is something which is very easy for you to achieve, your baseline should be 70%.
Got it.
So when this happens, it's basically a sign that their neuroplasticity has taken place, has happened.
Got it.
And now your baseline has moved. So for example, we are working with some athletes where every month we work with each athlete individually. There is a coaching program that we prepare for them. It's with their coaches, obviously. And then we see for these 20 athletes, each person gets a different customized coaching program. And every month we see whatever we are trying is moving us in a positive direction.
Got it.
So maybe 2%, maybe 3%, maybe 4%, but there is a move.
Sure.
And that is what we are trying to cater towards and target in the bigger picture.
But sorry, I'm interrupting you, but is the point you're making that this is infinite?
Yes.
Really?
Kind of, yes. Because when you reach gamma brainwaves, it's not that easy. So it can get better and better. It's like learning. It's like your appetite. You can always change. Is there an ideal fitness that you can reach?
No, there isn't.
So the same thing is with your brain. For your body, for your height and your weight and your age, there is some things that you can achieve, which is good.
Yeah.
But you can always keep on growing and getting better because there are thousands of things. In your physical body, there's still your heart rate.
Yeah.
In your mental, it's possible that today you have 100% focus, 100% relaxation, 10% fatigue, very high alertness.
Got it.
But then motivation levels would be wrong.
Right.
So then we need to work on your motivations. There are 50 plus cognitive matrix that ideally you can monitor. And having all of them going good in one particular direction would not be possible.
Easy, yeah, sure.
So it'll take years and years of journey to be able to get you to that state where everything is balanced and nothing messes you up.
Interesting. So interesting. Let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about stress.
Yes.
I've been part of this health and wellness sort of world for only 10 years.
Right.
prior to which I used to run a cement business. But I could easily say since the time I was 19, stress has been an acute part of my life, very, very acute part of everything that happened. We used to work in an extremely disturbed area in Assam, where terrorism was very common. And of course, that was stressful. When you're dealing with things like this, it's obviously stressful. And generally speaking, an entrepreneur's life is stressful. Life is stressful. Then as I got into this whole health and wellness space, the people I started meeting, I started to realize that I'm not the only one. In fact, perhaps my stress levels are 1/10 of most of the people I'm meeting. I'm far less stressed than many other people.
Yeah.
Because what happens with stress is it's not directly a connection between what is stressing you and how much you're getting stressed.
Correct.
A very small thing can stress you a great deal, and a great thing cannot stress you at all.
Right.
And then it becomes subjective, where you are, what is your evolution, what sort of spiritual place you're at, what kind of mindset you bring to the table, what kind of friends and circumstances you find yourself in, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So stress is definitely, I think, one of the biggest challenges we face in modern society.
100%.
Not to mention the fact that then you're hyperstimulated, you're constantly getting messages, emails, WhatsApp, SMS, and so on and so forth, right? And if you're not completely switched on, then you almost feel like I'm going to be left out.
Right.
So in that kind of environment where stress is such an acute part of my life, anyone's life, I have been walking this journey of trying to find a way to bring down my stress levels.
Right.
I found and I searched and I sort of wanted to find a particular term, one term that could describe it for me. For me, that term has become stillness. Stillness for me is this notion that I can experience life, good, bad, whatever it is, but still be okay. Right? I will experience the bad. I'll experience the the anxiety and the anger and the things not going my way, and still be okay. And of course, I will also experience great things and still be okay.
Right.
So I think that to me defines stillness.
Yes.
I want to try and bring that back into the conversation about what you're doing. So how could I use this device to create, for me, that notion of stillness? And if there's anyone else out there wants to define it differently, more power to you. But the idea that you're okay regardless of what is happening in your life. How would you use something like
So
this?
in a very basic sense, there is, when you see those graphs, you'll see your state, the electrical activity switching between different networks.
Yeah.
So we talked about brain waves. We talk about brain lobes, which is brain parts.
Yeah.
The third part is brain networks.
Sure.
Central executive network.
Yeah.
Salience network.
Yeah.
And then DMN.
Okay.
There are many such networks.
Okay.
When you say you're still, it basically means that you're in one network for a longer period of time.
Okay.
In a very basic sense, which would in a graphical format result in a stable line.
Got it.
So when we always ask our users, you have 90% average, but it goes like this.
Correct.
Is this better, or a 70% like this is better?
Got
You
it.
always say 70% stable is better.
Got it.
Because it's like context switching. You need to be at one place mentally, emotionally for a longer period of time,
Got
which
it.
you represent as stillness, for example.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So in the device, the whole point is that we want you to be more stable.
Yeah.
That is the goal. But unfortunately, that's not what people have. They are always switching between different tasks. They're running around. Their brain is running around. They're never in one moment at one time.
Got it.
They're in 5 moments, bare minimum at one time. This is how the device can help you, because it can tell you how fast your context switching. And if you go from 90 to 70 like this, eventually this will die down.
Correct.
Your average over next 2 weeks will only decrease and decrease.
Yeah.
Your trend should be either like this or
stable.
like this. Or stable. Stable is the ideal goal. I've seen, as I said again, stable graphs are only seen for people who have a very high sense of control over their brain, where they can stay in that moment. So long-term meditators or national level athletes.
Right.
They are the only 2 set of people who I have seen this from a data center.
But is it your argument that any average person with the right techniques plus, whatever measurements we're able to do here can actually move, or it's not possible?
Can move as in?
To that state where...
They can. It would be varied. So I did move. So I was a very hyperactive individual.
Okay.
I had beta brain waves even at 10 p.m. in the night, which means like a very focused. I cannot turn it off.
Right. I hear that all the time. Like, I went home and I just couldn't switch off.
Switch off. Yeah. So now I created some rules for myself. If I want to sleep by 12, because I have to get up by 7, which means I need my brain to go from beta brain waves, which is like 15, 16 hertz, to a 4 hertz. I have to give my body the time,
to
right?
switch, yeah.
Now, if you're at 10, you'll reach there faster. If I'm at a higher frequency, I'll reach there slower. So that is one thing that the device helps with. The second thing is that you need to have that journey towards decreasing. So yes, I was very hyperactive. I was always in 10 places. I was a person where I could not leave my phone, and as an entrepreneur or CEO, you cannot really always like tuck, 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 tuck. But I've created these rules for myself where if I'm like right now traveling to Kolkata, so I will shut my phone off and I'll be in this moment where I'm meeting. I never, like, I keep my phone in my bag. And this is a thing which was not there in India, but it was very common in Germany. You would never have the phone on the tables when you're sitting with a person. These are small techniques of how you can create those moments of stillness and being in those moments. But yes, you can train your brain to be whoever you want to be. I'm an engineer, a very passionate one, to be honest, who came into marketing, finance, and business and doing entrepreneurship where I really didn't wanted it to do it. So you can train your brain to be whoever, however you want it to be. You just have to set that goal for yourself.
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely amazing. No, totally amazing. And then a final question around sleep.
Yes.
So, I mean, given the practicality of this device, is this something I can wear and go to sleep?
So not this device that you can. So with regards to the technology, yes. With regards to the practicality, because the headband goes at the back of your head, you don't want to wear this during your sleep. But this is something that we are working on to be able to create an EEG device for your sleep.
Got it.
Because this is the gold standard. See, EEG, your brain, it's where everything starts, works, happens, everything. We've seen studies where they have compared Apple Watch to a EEG device. They've compared Aura Ring to an EEG device, and they've seen maximum accuracy of 80 to 84%. Now we want to be able to create something which helps people relax, unplug, and sleep, because that's like a reset. That's like the best detox you do for yourself. So if you're not sleeping well, that should be the very first sign for you to take care of your mental health. Very first. So that is something that we are working on. But we also have a cap which is like a swimming cap, which people can wear while sleeping. So it's being used in some of the sleep clinics. That is something that can be used. Maybe not this.
Okay, wonderful. And then, of course, the same logic would apply. You would understand what is happening in your sleep. Maybe you could compare it to what your Aura Ring is telling you, or your Garmin watch is telling you, or whatever. And then start looking at brain patterns versus deep sleep, REM sleep, and so on and so forth. Is that kind of what you're saying?
And actually a little bit more, because your brain can tell you a little bit more than all the 4 stages, because it can also tell you which brain wave you were in, as I told you, right? Because the transition time. So you can see, so now we see in the world of biohacking, red light therapy, the right temperature, all these things play like a key role. And if your sleep then the next morning is having an impact on your cognitive readiness. This tells my physical readiness. My physical body is ready, but my mental is not ready. So I don't feel like taking some challenges. So that being as the, let's say, key metric, we can also tell you if this sleep helped you really detox your brain.
Got it.
From that perspective, we are working on.
Wonderful. No, we can go on and on and on, but I'd love to maybe be the guinea pig. So maybe if there's a way in which I can sort of have this put on my head, and then have you discover all the gamma waves in my brain. So that would be really fun.
100% we can.
So we'll take a quick 1-minute break, guys, and we'll try and see if I can get this strapped onto my head. And then we'll record the readings from my brain. And then what I promised to do is to try and also put it out on the video so that you can see what's actually happening. Maybe you can run me through 1 or 2 small techniques. Because I did learn that, so for example, photomodulation can change your brain waves. Breathing can change your brain waves, better and worse.
Both.
So I'd love to see if we can try maybe 1 or 2 things, see what happens, and that'd be fun. Okay, we'll just take a quick break and we'll be back. Thank you for watching. Being connected to each other is easily one of the most powerful emotions a human being can feel. On that note, I have a very small request to make of you. Lots of you watch this channel, but not all of you subscribe to this channel. If you subscribe, you'll get notified of all the new episodes that we're going to be releasing very shortly. We've had some fascinating conversations with some amazing people who have so many powerful lessons to teach. So please do subscribe. If you subscribe to the channel, you will know about all the new episodes we're releasing. So please subscribe now. So welcome back. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be the guinea pig. Ria has already installed the Neuphony EEG device on my head. What we're going to try and do is take a baseline
Mhm.
and then compare, when you initiate some sort of an action, whether it's meditation or breathing, how my baseline is actually changing. So maybe Ria, if you can walk me through what we're going to do, that would be wonderful. I'm all
Perfect.
yours.
So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start a session of yours on the Neuphony desktop application. We can see that all the sensors are connected as of right now. And the first 3 minutes is going to be a Neuphony baseline calculation.
All right.
So what we really mean by baseline is what's your resting brain activity,
Okay.
where there is no stimulus. If we leave you by yourself, what is the natural rhythm of your brain and in which direction it goes? Some people stress themselves, some people relax themselves. There's something that would happen by your resilience and by your thought processes. And that's what we try to capture in the step 1, which is the baseline calculation.
All right.
Then I'm going to analyze that baseline, see what is the parameter that is low. For example, if is it focus, then I'm going to give you a focus meditation. If it's relaxation, then I'm going to give you a relaxing meditation. Or if it's readiness or mental fatigue, based on that, I'm going to give you a meditation. And we'll try to see if we get the desired results. Sometimes it's possible we do get the desired results. Sometimes it's possible that because every brain is different, so what's relaxing for me might
May
not
not
be
be.
relaxing for
Sure.
you. And then we'll find that technique which puts you to the best possible score. And then we repeat it until our baseline only increases
Wonderful.
within a few weeks or months. So that's what we are going to do.
Very exciting. Very, very exciting.
Me too.
Let's do it.
Perfect. So now I request you to close your eyes and we start the baseline calculation step. Now I'll start the new task and I request you to focus on the music and try to keep the attention outside of your body. So it's an external focus meditation.
Sure.
Let's do one more activity where can you do Kapal Bharti?
I don't know how.
So we need to do deep breathing, like
Okay.
just take your abdomen in and try to exhale all the oxygen that you have.
Okay.
And do it in a fast pace. We can stop now. It's perfect. So now I'm going to end the session and I'm going to show you the results.
Okay.
We saw in the baseline calculation that you were actually able to calm yourself. So from the very second the data calculation started and till the end of the baseline, which was 3 minutes, you were able to calm yourself.
Okay.
So you're not a person who would, if left alone, would stress yourself.
Okay.
You are a person who likes to be in the moment, who likes to spend time with himself.
Sure.
Generally, which is, as you know, which is very rare. We saw in COVID that this was one of the biggest problem because people were not able to communicate with each other. They could not meet. They could not find that escape that people were looking for.
Sure.
And staying at home, being just with themselves left in a room actually was a lot of struggle for a lot of people. That's not the case here, definitely. So that's why when I gave you like a meditation, I gave you a focus meditation.
All right.
Because if left alone in baseline, you will relax yourself. So that did not seem to be like a challenge.
Okay.
So what we can see here is, so we tried 3 techniques, right? One was baseline, the second was like a music meditation, and the third was breathing. So your baseline focus was 29%.
Okay.
But when you tried the meditation, it was roughly 60%. And when you tried breathing, it actually, because your breathing was more towards the upper end, we actually saw your focus levels going as high as 100% during breathing.
Okay.
So this if I have to just compare these 3 techniques to a focus meditation, we'll see that breathing is definitely a better way for you to achieve a higher level of focus. So, for example, if you're going into an important meeting where you want to put yourself together and collect your thoughts, just do a quick 5 minutes breathing techniques. This seems to be working for you for a quick hack to be able to be in this moment when you're distracted all around.
Right.
So 2 minutes or 3 minutes of a focus meditation would really help. Now, if we talk about the relaxation parameters, we see that your baseline relaxation was 53%.
Okay.
But when you started doing the music meditation, the music did not seem to work for you.
Okay.
Because we saw 26% relaxation score, which basically means that we always ask this question, does every meditation work? What is meditation? Meditation is something that helps you be in the moment.
Correct.
But this music did not seem to help you be in the moment or relax. You might, you were able to relax yourself, but something was coming. So this was not a very engaging. And it's also possible because of the frequency of the music, because the music was going up and down. So it's possible your brain was engaged towards the music. So it was a better focus meditation rather than a relaxing one. Whereas I gave you a relaxing meditation.
Got it.
The third one, which was breathing techniques. In breathing techniques, your relaxation also increased. Now we have to understand that if your focus increases and your relaxation increases, that's a sign of you trying to be in the flow state. Because you're both focused but calm.
Correct.
So maybe this is the thing that's going to help you in the long run. This is the thing that can also help you achieve flow state. Because flow state is seen as high beta brain waves and high theta brain waves.
Right.
And breathing helped you do both. So it made you reach 2 good marks. Now the third would be readiness. So readiness is generally mindfulness, vigilance, divided attention. So where you're focused on yourself, but also alert towards the surroundings. That is that. And your baseline was 6% readiness, because obviously in baseline, you are spending time with yourself. Now, if I ask you to, let's say, do a team meeting, your readiness should be high. As a team leader, when you're communicating or when you're working, your readiness needs to be high. That's like you're prepared for anything that's about to come.
Correct.
But when you're spending time with yourself, you need to let your guards down. So your readiness should be low when spending time with yourself. And we saw that happening. We saw that the meditation that I gave you also reduced your readiness, because it maybe took you to a thought process. It helped you process some information. So your readiness reduced to 1%. But again, in the breathing technique, your readiness was 80%. So we definitely see that deep breathing puts you in an ideal state. High focus, high relaxation, high readiness. And now the fourth parameter, which is mental fatigue. Everybody monitors their physical health a lot. So physical fatigue is something that we are aware of, that I'm tired, I don't feel like waking up. But our brain is not tired that day. So we end up, let's say, wasting that day, which could have been a productive day because of our physical fatigue.
Got it.
But what is also possible, that everything comes from the brain, right? If your brain is energized, you can energize your physical body. But how do you do the other way around? If you have mental fatigue and you're trying to work, that is a day where you should take a rest day off. Because your brain is saying, I am not in an operating mode. I need that break. If your mental fatigue levels are high and your readiness is low, stress levels is high, that's a non-performing state, definitely.
Sure.
And if it states that for a longer period of time, or we see the trend going in that direction, we can provide the necessary intervention at a preventive level as well. That, healthy eating, spend some good time with your family. I've seen this with my employees, where we've seen very high fatigue levels, very high stress levels. And no matter what then the timeline or the deliverables for me are as a manager, we ask them to take a compulsory mental health day off.
Sure.
That is how we determine when to take that break. So for you, we saw you are a person whose mental fatigue levels were 39. So you're not very exhausted. You are engaged into the conversation. So not very tired. When we did the meditations, the mental fatigue levels went up to 57% because your brain was engaged. If you would have done a relaxing meditation, the fatigue levels should have come down. If they don't come down, that's a sign of you doing the wrong technique. Because it's possible that, for example, imagine that a person has arthritis and they're trying to do jogging. So it's not the right technique for them. Similarly, if a person who has high fatigue levels, high focus levels, is trying to do a focus meditation, he'll be sent to a higher beta state.
Correct.
They might perform, but then the fatigue levels would also increase. And eventually, then the decline towards your performance would start coming.
Got it.
So all of this data is used by us, the user themselves, or the brain gyms that we have and the wellness practitioners who are running this industry on behalf of us to help the users and the consumers understand when to take that necessary break and just to spend 15 minutes of their time daily for their mental peace and happiness.
Right.
That's what the goal of a Neuphony is.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And then if you'd permit, you were also talking about the different kinds of waves and what kinds of
Yes.
waves I had. What was that you were saying?
So we actually saw that you had very high theta brain waves.
Okay.
So if you would have done this on me, you would have seen very high beta brain waves.
Okay.
So I'm a person, I'm always in the operating productive zone.
Okay.
I don't calm down. But then my body, always, I'm still learning that, my body tells me to calm down.
Got it.
So I should have actually calmed myself down earlier. But with you, it's actually amazing. So the theta to beta ratio should be at least 2 times plus.
Okay.
Which means your theta brain waves should be at least double the amplitude as compared to your beta brain waves.
Okay.
To be a more mindful, performing and creative individual. And that's what we saw with you. No matter
interesting.
what I gave you, what technique, be it leaving it by yourself, or even doing the meditations, or even breathing techniques, we saw high theta brain waves. You will not see it in normal individuals. In normal individuals, the curve is like this.
Okay.
Alpha and beta are the higher ones. Theta and gamma is low. Whereas for you, the peak was here. It was more like this. Less beta, less gamma. So you're not exhausted. You're not focused towards the external end of it. You're more relaxed. You're ready. You're at peace, if I have to put it like that. So in those few minutes of when you are wearing the device and when we track that data, your relaxation levels were very high.
Incredible.
So whatever
and
we
I didn't
did
bribe you to say all this, right?
No, you didn't bribe me. No,
wonderful.
not at all. So you're a person who would not stress himself out.
Sure.
You might have to push yourself some days, but you are a person who is at content, peace and relaxing individual. So now what is the consequence of this from an external perspective is also that when I would come to you and meet you, I would feel that peace. I would not feel that hyperactive. Like there are some people who would you meet and feel like, oh my God, that person is doing so much, I'm not doing anything. And then there are some people who you'll meet like, oh my God, this person is happy. This person is at peace. He's just calm. And that's what we want each individual to be. Because if every individual is compassionate and mindful, imagine the society that we would build.
Correct.
And that's what we want to do on a very long picture.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. This has been absolutely fascinating. I wish you great success. I think you're onto a very good product.
Thank you so
At
much.
least as far as I'm concerned, I would very strongly endorse what you're doing.
Thank you
I have
so much.
understood the science of what you do. I've understood the product itself. May you fly, may you go places, may you conquer the world. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ritesh, for having me.